Hello and welcome to the Coaching Crowd podcast with me, Jo Wheatley, and my friend and co-host Zoe Hawkins.
Hello, everybody. Back for another episode this week, and we are taking you behind the scenes of our coaching business throughout 2024. It's a roundup for the end of the year, as I'm sure you are all sat eating leftovers and enjoying your day, however you may be, as the year comes to an end. So, we're going to travel through our year with you today.
And just to set the scene, like all of you, I imagine, it has been a year full of mixed experiences for us. So, whilst we hope you'll take lots of inspiration from the things that we're talking about today, also just to caveat that with obviously nothing in life is all completely rosy. So, we have similar lives to all of you. And
Absolutely.
it was a big year, 2024, for many different reasons, and we will talk you through that now.
Yes. And it's hard to know where to start, isn't it? Like when you introduce, like, oh, we have lives, the first thing that comes to my mind is, oh, yeah, I did a massive roof replacement. Like, no one's going to be interested in the fact that I had to replace my roof. But just to share the humanness, we had a leak in our roof that we thought would be a £200 patch job, and off you go. It ended up being a 2-week roof replacement that cost several £1,000s that we hadn't budgeted for. So, yes, we are human, and yes, the year is not always been plain sailing. But let's bring you something that's maybe more interesting than the woes of my house. We started in January bringing on a team of supervisors, which was a highlight for us in our first real recruitment campaign. And if we wound the clock back, let's say 3 years, and we thought about recruiting people, we were in a space we were like, oh, who would want to come and work for us? And will we find people? Will we get the expertise that we were looking for? And when we went out to recruit for the supervisors, like, oh my gosh, we were overwhelmed with people who were interested in supporting our learners, which was so joyous. And we had so many calls with so many wonderful supervisors, and actually so many more who we couldn't speak to, and we had to create a shortlist. But that was to kick off the year in 2024. It was a really great start to be able to meet so many brilliant people.
Yeah, qualified and accredited coaching supervisors, and that role is really pivotal in the journey for our learners. So, for those learners on our coaching qualifications, they will receive coaching supervision after they've undertaken all of the training and the pre-work, and they're out there doing their practice hours with their clients. The time with the supervisor is really, it's about continuing the contact with us as the training provider, and a space to celebrate what's going well and that they're amazed that it has, but I just want to tell somebody else who knows. And also a space to be able to bring the situations like, I've tried this and this and I don't know what to do next, or should I be coaching this client because of these reasons? And it really just helps to round off some of those what can feel like pointy edges when you're going out there. And we know it's a huge thing to move out of the container of the cohort into working on your own with clients. So for us, the choices around who came to take those roles on behalf of us, because it's always been Zoe and I in the past, was really, really important. And it's a learning journey for the learners as well, because coaching supervision is something that's completely new to them. And you like every aspect of the program, I think often people think, oh, it's not enough of that. Oh, I wish these sessions were longer. I wish this was longer, and so on. But we've had some really lovely feedback. And what's also most really important about that recruitment process is that we consciously made efforts to expand the diversity of our team. And we were able to bring in greater diversity in many different respects through that recruitment campaign, and that has really enriched our team and brought really valuable expertise and personalities into our team.
Yeah, and flavors of different cultures and different approaches to supervision, which has been brilliant. It gives our learners choice. And I think also, Joe, in full transparency, whenever we change something in our business, it's not easy. So we've brought supervisors on, they've been brilliant, but we have a process now that we have to run. And the process of outsourcing supervision brings a complexity to our business that hasn't been as smooth. And some of the learners on our programs will have noticed that at times where there may have been a link that didn't work to join a lesson, or there may have been with our supervisors internally a miscommunication about dates. So, there is humanness in our business as well, where things don't work despite our best efforts and our attention to detail and the quality that we want to bring. Not everything goes to plan when we're implementing new processes. So, we offer you that, in that whenever you change up anything in your business, it may not be seamless. It's not seamless for us, and we're forever learning, improving, and tweaking. And as we're talking kind of about onboarding, we may as well jump to later in the year, where we also recruited two new team members, two new permanent full-time team members, which has been amazing. And that was a wonderful campaign. Again, we got to meet so many talented people, so many people who wanted to, to bring their strengths and expertise to our business, which we felt very grateful for, I think would be a great summary. And we've brought on Heather and Gwen, who are with the team now. And that, again, has been beautiful, because it's lovely having two new full-time team members. They've come in and made an instant difference. And the process of onboarding, where we have both had to do the work and onboard team members, that is a reality in business whenever you take big steps. And for us, it was a big step bringing two full-time people on board.
And love how they're developing their relationship together as well. That's a really beautiful thing, that I've really enjoyed. But it was intense, and over the summer we tried to work term time only, but it didn't quite work out like that for us this year. So our plans for our summers were not exactly, we made the most of it, but weren't exactly as we had hoped it would be. Certainly next summer we would hope that we would have a bit more freedom for ourselves. So yeah, again, another reality as we tried to support different team members through different phases of their lives too, because of course when people come to your team, they don't only come in as the role, they come in with all of the life that is also going on for them.
I remember in the summer, Jo, my eldest said to me, like, why are you working? Like, don't parents stop working in the summer? I just thought, wow, that's so lovely that she has that experience and perspective of what her upbringing has been, that she knows that when it's the holidays, I stop working and spend time with them. So it came as a bit of a reorientation this year of like, actually, no. And not all parents have the privilege to be able to down tools over the summer. Many have to continue working full time. So we were able to have a whole conversation as well around, like, this is our life and this is how we do living, but also this is how many other people live. And so it kind of was an opportunity to help my children to broaden their perspectives. They've been very lucky with the flexibility that this business has brought.
And we actually never stop working, if we're really honest. So,
well, no.
So what I mean is we're always thinking about the business and messaging each other about, different ideas or thoughts. But this summer we actually needed to be at the computer responding to things and doing things. So where there's less freedom, we love the freedom of being able to just have thoughts pop into our mind when we're out doing different things. But if we go back to February is always pivotal for us because it is our anniversary, our work anniversary on Valentine's Day each year. And this year it marked 13 years of being in business together. And I feel like we jumped from 7 years to 13 somehow. And now I feel like the next one's going to be 20 years, isn't it? Surely. So that, that is always a moment of pride. It's like every year it's like, well, we made it. Like we've kept this business alive. It's like a baby, we've kept it alive for this amount of time. And we're fortunate that it's growing and it's thriving. And of course, like any child, if you like, there are times when it needs different things. And we have birthed new things this year. And we're actually a huge amount. So in the first part of this year, many of you will know from our social media posts, Zoe and I were holed up, intensely creating the group and team coaching program which is a really important asset in our business because it is a natural desire that coaches have once they've done their foundational coaching training focused on one-to-one to think about group and teamwork. And we're really proud of that program. And, you know, we obviously always take time to review it, and we'll be doing a review of that as we go into 2025 and looking at how that might evolve. And then in the latter part of the year, in fact, whilst we're recording this, we are in the throes of finalizing our neurodivergent inclusive practitioner training program, which is hugely important to us and we know is going to be really popular and is very much needed, as coaches need to learn and be informed to create those really inclusive spaces. So that's two huge things in terms of courses that we've created this year. Can't quite believe it myself.
No, and I think what's really lovely, whenever well, again, let's go back a few years, we would create courses for our alumni. That was kind of in the mind that we were thinking was, so we bring obviously people through our initial coach training, and then they typically would say to us, oh, I'd really love to do X, Y, and Z. And we'd be like, oh, well, let's create a program for that. And that was kind of where the emotions coaching practitioner training started to come from. But when we launched emotions coaching practitioner training back in 2023, we actually brought in a whole new audience of coaches, which was amazing for us because it was really lovely to be able to extend our community and reach new people. And the same has happened again with the group and team coaching, and we know the same will happen again with the neurodivergent coaching. So we are now we think more broadly, obviously 13 years in, than just creating courses for alumni. We think about how we create courses for coaches and practitioners, and we have really enjoyed meeting people who are either new to our community or coming to our community for the first time. So that's been a real highlight, is to be able to extend that. And that's come through in our numbers as well, isn't it? So if we look in the coaching crowd and in our business lounge, we're seeing an uplift of 50%, additional people joining us in those spaces. And we see that reflected on people in our email community that receive our weekly sort of bulletin as well. So it's been a year where we have welcomed new faces and new spirits into our spaces, which has just been great.
And it is a bit of a wow. Like when we looked at the coaching crowd community numbers, like, wow. So from 31st of December last year and until now, and we're recording this a little bit in advance, obviously, when it's going out, like another 2,000 people or more than 2,000 people have joined. And we see lots of people recommending it. And we, as you know, we are very clear on keeping that a spam-free space. We want it to be all about coaching, and it is all about coaching. So that's been amazing. And then, of course, there are the events. So I don't know, we didn't really have as many planned events. So we have been doing a coaching summit for the last couple of years, and we ran that again in July. And we've run that as an event to showcase coaches in our business lounge, where they come and join the business lounge because they want to learn more about the business side. How do you create and sustain a successful coaching business? And we know that, talking about what they do and facilitating things can be a little bit scary. And so community creates the strength, I think, to be able to break through that comfort zone. But actually, it draws a huge audience. We draw over 1,000 people to those events, and we ran that over 2 days or 3 days. I can't remember now.
I think it was 2 days this year.
Yeah.
Mm.
Hugely successful. And then off the back of that, after the summer, we decided that we'd run an emotions coaching summit, and we brought in other speakers. That was new for us, to bring in other coaches and experts around that field, which I really love that we did that. I love to showcase people and also recognize that we are part of broader communities. I really appreciate all the connections I have in the spaces that I have that stimulate ideas and thoughts for me. And again, we had a similar turnout, over 1,000 people. I think it's like 1,200 people signed up for that one day. And it was brilliant. We're so proud of that. And then we decided to run a challenge, which we haven't done before. And we've thought about doing it, haven't we? And we just hadn't got to it. And then we got to it.
Yeah, and I think the thing that is useful for you guys to hear is that many of these things are spontaneous, and unplanned. So the coaching summit's not. We have a model for that now, and we've run that several years. So that's quite easy for us to do each year. We have a lot of the setup, but the emotions coaching summit, you say we decided, Joe. I'm gonna put it out there that you decided. And I went with your energy on that. But it was an amazing idea. And same with the challenge. And I would say I probably decided that one more so, and you joined in my energy with it. But what I think I offer you is to, like, don't overthink these things. Like, if you get an idea in your business around, oh, wouldn't that be a useful blah? Great, run it, do it as an experiment, keep it as simple as possible. So with the challenge, never done it before, never done one before. It was an idea that came to me, I think, at like 4 a.m. And usually those ideas are ones you follow through on because they can be the most sort of useful experiments to run in your business. And we whipped it up, I think, over the space of a few days and brought that to life. And of course, we had the support of the team who helped us with some socials. And we've got this podcast where we can put an episode out. So we had great registrations and attendance at that. And keep it simple, because that's what we did with this challenge, is we just kept it simple. And much of what you saw on the outcome, if you were following the challenge, so at the end of the challenge, we decided to put on a cohort for foundations of group and team coaching. We also sold the challenge itself because we had people saying, oh my gosh, I haven't managed to do the videos. Like, can I please continue to access this? I can't make the workshop. Can I have the resources? And we're like, okay, yes. So we packaged up some workbooks and offered that out. But that wasn't planned. Like, many of that came as an experience of doing the challenge. So often the ideas that you have will generate new ideas that you can then sort of roll with as you go. So as you think about your businesses in the year ahead, or if you're not yet a coach but are thinking of training to be a coach, like, don't overthink things, follow through on the energy and keep it simple.
I think it's this where you can just, for you and I, like, we know when the other person has seen it, and also we're able to articulate that to the other person. So, like with the emotions coaching summit, I could see how that was achievable, that it wasn't going to be overly complicated. I believed that people would want to come and speak at it, and and so on. Of course, we didn't know the numbers, but where that came from for me is like, the emotions coaching practitioner program is amazing. It's amazing. If I was a coach, I would want to discover that and I'd want to do it. And I think I just hate the thought that people don't know that it exists. People need to know more about it. And there's also the mission piece. Like, we created that program from a place, it's mission led, and we have so many of the people that come through the program feel the same way, and they're like, hashtag emotions revolution, etc. I'm like, we have to get this out into the world more. We need more people to be talking about what it is to be human, which is having emotions and experiencing emotions. And actually, so many people live their lives in such a narrow range of emotions, and that's not healthy. So that's where that comes from. And with the group and team coaching program, it's the same thing, isn't it? Like, it's so useful for your business, and there's so much joy working with groups and teams. And don't hold yourself back, because so many people are like, can I work with groups and teams? What would I need to do to be able to do that? And it's like, look, here you go. Here's a whole load of stuff. And in fact, somebody commented yesterday saying, can you divide this particular module up? There's so much in it. Please, can you please do that? So
that's the irony with the feedback on that program, is people want more, so we've given like a program which is really extensive, and because it's so extensive, they want more. So some facilitation or some sessions to ask some Q&A, or as our learner shared yesterday, like breaking it up, and that's brilliant. We haven't left them wanting more because there's not enough in it. Like, we've put so much in it, it's whetted their appetite and inspiration for wanting to do more with it in a supported way. So yes, whenever we create something new, we're also going to be looking and reviewing. And same with the challenge and the summit. We're having conversations around, do we do those again next year? Do we not? What did we learn from them? How do we want to do them slightly differently? And actually, the challenge for the group and team coaching was also a lens on which, how do we support our learners on our programs to be able to implement what they have learned? Like, so for those people who were already doing our group and team coaching, we saw many of them come on the challenge because they were then able to put into place everything they'd learned in foundations of group and team coaching to be able to bring group coaching programs to the world. So, you know, whenever we do these events, they aren't all for sales. They are often about supporting the communities that exist around us to do their world work whilst we're busy doing ours. And that's really what fuels our passion to keep going into year 14.
And I really was amazed at the energy in that challenge. You know, all of the comments and the interactions, I said I hadn't envisaged there would be so much of that in that space. And so as a result of that, that makes us think we've got to do this again, or do we incorporate it like in some other ways? So that was actually really joyful. And it's so good being able to take an idea and bring it to life in a relatively short period of time, because there's so much in our business that is like interconnected with everything else that a simple thing feels so complicated. So when we can take these standalone pieces and do it, I think we find that quite liberating. And as you'll know, because we've talked about it before, we love newness. So we're always seeking like, what can we do a little bit differently, because it keeps our energy up around those things. And I've got a new office, and
You do?
you know, so my original I don't know if it's my original office, but I worked from our bedroom for a long time, and it's got like an apex and it's got a sea view and it's beautiful and I loved it. It's not really healthy being in my bedroom, you know, working like, you know, all of that space for different uses. Then I came down, I was in another room. So those of you that watch the podcast will have seen that I had like sofas behind me, and I was like in a lounge area in the bottom of our house. But I was looking down a corridor. So that wasn't too good for me overall. So now I'm in my office. But when I moved into the office, we then discovered, you know, there's a theme here, there was a leak from original building work we'd had done a few years ago, which then meant that cost a lot of money to sort out and a lot of effort otherwise around it. But I have my sea view back. I've put a window in the end, like in the wall, so I can see it. I've decorated it in good company colors. So you can see a couple of them on the video, and then the other wall. So I'm in an in good company space, which I've never been in. I've always been in a temporary space. And as much as I miss the sofa I used to sit on and record lots of our demos, it was so comfy, and working with clients and the notes, I feel like I'm in a professional space, and I feel like it matches where the business is at. So I'm really, really grateful for that this year in a practical sense.
Just to bring some yin to your yang, as you talk about and gloat about your office, I am currently sat in my office, which has flooded for the, I don't even know, fourth time, potentially. We have a groundwater problem. So my office is used to be a store cupboard. We live in a like 250-year-old house. And this just used to be an old store cupboard. It was disused. So in lockdown, when all of that was happening, we converted it to an office. It's obviously boarded it out and put in a nice new floor. And it flooded once due to a burst pipe. So got rid of that. And then it flooded again. And it was due to, I can't even remember, something random. Can't remember. Anyway, ripped it all out, did it again. And then we had our driveway retarmacked this year. And in the whole process of having that done, all of the ground outside my office was churned up and it was really boggy. So I put a load of, put some membrane down and some chips on top of that, just so we had somewhere to park the car. Then the office flooded again. I was like, oh, that's because we put a weed membrane down, and obviously it changes the absorbency of the floor, ripped that up, flooded again. So sat here at the end of the year on my fourth flood. I currently have duvets all over the floor, so it creates some acoustics. You may hear a slight difference on the podcast audio whilst I get that sorted. So I do not have a home yet that I can feel is my in good company space. But once I get out of the zone of being busy, because I have some other work going on in the house, I am going to be looking at a garden office, and I will get to choose where it's going to be and how it's going to be put together. And I think the reason we share these stories, hopefully it gives you a sense of like our personality and behind the scenes, but the environment in which you work does need to be conducive to creativity. So Joe and I had some time in the diary this week to plot out our supervision course, which is coming in 2025. And we're starting to get into the creative flow. Joe's probably further ahead than me and keeps sending me like ideas. And we had a 2-hour meeting planned. I wasn't in the zone. I've got underfloor heating going in, new boiler being installed, the kitchen has got to go in. My house has all been stuffed into like 2 rooms. It's really cluttered. My office flooded. And I was like, Joe, not feeling it today. Can we find some other time for that? So your environment, where you do your coaching, where you do your work, is an important part, I think, personally, of how you are in your business. So environments on the cards for 2025. I'm going to birth my own in good company space.
Mm-hmm. And, outside of work, oh no, in fact, inside of work. So you went on a retreat. I went on a retreat.
Yeah, not
Uh,
together this time. We did
no.
last year, didn't we? We did a retreat together in Costa Rica last year. This year, I went to California, which is a spiritual retreat, really. And I think the reason why, I mean, I've been on a spiritual journey for a few years, just exploring. I don't know how to describe it really. It's about exploring and opening my mind. So I have no real intention to become a spiritual teacher or anything, but it's you put a post up this week, Joe, and it's about how much of the world have I dismissed? How much of consciousness am I not letting in? And so for me, when I go on these experiences, it's not with an agenda to want to be or do anything differently. It's really to open my mind to what is possible. What am I dismissing? And it was really pertinent, your post today where you talked about other cultures. Like for many other cultures, this is very normal. Like spirituality is an everyday, it's not even a thing that gets labeled because it's an everyday part of how life is done. And I feel my culture has become disconnected from that. It's unusual to be spiritual, which for me just doesn't feel right anymore. And so my sort of discovery and spiritual journey is really about opening my mind, exploring what have I dismissed through the years, how have I been conditioned, how can I open up, and in doing so myself, I create a bigger container for my clients, our learners, um, understanding different systemic influences. So it's all part of the work, just in a different way.
And I posted that post I put up was following a 3-day sound healing course, just a level 1 course, just dipping my toe into it. Don't want to, I'm not aiming to become a sound healer as my business, but I'm just interested in the science and the psychology around it. And also I really enjoy a sound bath, which I discovered when we went on that retreat to Costa Rica. I'm fascinated by it. And I suppose it's just that sense of, who does that draw in? So, 15 of us together having an experience. And it was a really, really compassionate, deep space. And peace is one of my values. And I think when I go on like really good learning and development experiences, I find a sense of peace in those experiences. It's a little bubble out of reality. It really was. Yeah, to find that. And there was a real softness in the experience. And earlier this year, I did quite a long body oriented coaching program because I was seeking to reconnect with my own body. I can spend a lot of time in my head. And just that kind of like coherence of that. And also, what is the wisdom of the body? I innately know and talk about and wanted to explore how much of this do I already do, or is this completely different? And I discovered I do a lot of it through intuition. But I enjoyed that experience. So I've really enjoyed the CPD that I've done this year. It's really helped my creativity. It's helped our evolving identity, and openness around it. And then separate to that, what I was starting to say was outside of work, sold the motorhome that we had. That's a big thing. I love going on the road, exploring new places, but the children had had enough of it, really. We'd explored so much, so it felt like that was the time. So we said goodbye to that. We welcomed Olive, your dog, into
Yes.
the In Good Company fold. So Zoe and I are now Olive and Fern. My dog were like, that's an awesome brand name, Olive and Fern. So if you've got any ideas what we could do with that, let us know.
Yeah, it's kind of becoming mandatory to have a cocker spaniel if you're going to be part of this team. So we've warned Gwen and Heather about that. And you may have seen Olive if you watch the podcast. She often will make an appearance because she's still a puppy and will be pulling at my various clothes to get some attention. So it's been, it's been a mixed year, hasn't it? Lots of highs. I wouldn't say any lows, but with all people, life throws different challenges in the road that you need to navigate. And we're really grateful for all of our listeners. If you're listening to this podcast, we're grateful for our learners who continue to trust and invest their money in our courses and come and learn with us. And we look forward to being able to meet new people in next year as well.
Yeah, and we hope that wherever you're listening, whenever you're listening to this, that you are feeling healthy and safe and loved. And if you're not so much right now, know that there are places and communities where you can find that, and please reach out and find those places.